There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.42% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,160, a high of 9,244, and a low of 9,077. That's $1 for 2,149 Bitcoins traded. That's $1 for 10,917 Satoshis. Volume was a little low with 2,149 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long with 81% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance was at 65%. Supposed to do that earlier, actually. And now, a reading from Principa Discordia. You know everything's going to go wrong when you start reading Eris, right? That was a mistake from the beginning. But we knew that. But let's find out what we know about Eris, which turns out to be not very much. The Romans left a likeness of her for posterity. She was known as a grotesque woman with a pale and ghastly look, her eyes afire, her garment ripped and torn, and as concealing a dagger in her bosom. Actually, most women look pale and ghastly when concealing a chilled dagger in their bosom. Her genealogy is from the Greeks, and is utterly confused. Either she was the twin of Ares and the daughter of Zeus and Hera, or she was the daughter of Nyx, goddess of the night, who was either the daughter or wife of Chaos, or both, and Nyx's brother Erebus, and whose brothers and sisters include death, doom, mockery, misery, and friendship. And that she begat forgetfulness, quarrels, lies, and a bunch of gods and goddesses like that. One day, Mal too consulted his pineal gland and asked Eris if she really created all of those terrible things. She told him that she had always liked the old Greeks, but they cannot be trusted with historic matters. They were, she added, victims of indigestion, you know. Suffice it to say that Eris is not hateful or malicious, but she is mischievous, and does get a little bitchy at times. And now, continuing our Eurasian studies. The cough button works again. The Law of Fives. The Law of Fives is one of the oldest Eurasian mysteries. It was first revealed to the good Lord Omar, and is one of the great contributions to come from the hidden temple of the Happy Jesus. POEE subscribes to the Law of Fives of Omar's sect, and POEE also recognizes that the Holy 23, 2 plus 3 equals 5, that is incorporated by Ascipicos, Dr. Mordecai Malignicus, KNS, into his Discordian sect, the ancient illuminated seers of Bavaria. The Law of Fives simply states that all things happen in fives, or are divisible by multiples of 5, or are somehow directly or indirectly appropriate to 5. The Law of Fives is never wrong. In the Eurasian archives is an old memo from Omar to Mal II. I find the Law of Fives to be more and more manifest, the harder I look. A quick reading from Principa Discordia by Malcalypse the Younger. And now, the Bitcoin news. Do you ever notice how the Bitcoin news is always about the price? Like, all these scientists and computer scientists work so hard to create this amazing store of value that can send value all over the internet, even pseudo-anonymously, but all we seem to care about is the price. Have you ever noticed that? Bitcoin's boring price could be end of quarter lull, from Forbes. Article didn't load. Bitcoin.com comprehensive analysis predicts Bitcoin price near 20K this year, 398K by 2030. Nothing loaded today. Making it more exciting. Market wrap. Bitcoin traders expect big move as volatility plummets. Bitcoin volatility is plummeting. Something's going to happen. Let's find out. This is that long article. It goes nowhere. Max Kaiser, U.S. hash rate war with Iran can send Bitcoin price to 500K. Of course, Max Kaiser said last week, by the time the price of Bitcoin hits 500,000, you'll have to pay 20K for a sandwich. Bitcoin's ROI since 2015 outperforms 5 major indices by 70 times. Bitcoin's return on investment from 2015 to 2020 puts the digital asset far ahead of many traditional markets. Bitcoin closes in the green Sunday to end longest daily losing run in 6 months. Yes, it's been 6 months since Bitcoin had a 5-day losing trend, all the way back to December of 2019. And this means something? PayPal deal won't drive Bitcoin price higher. Top banks say gold may see a record rally by 2021. Why Bitcoin can too. According to the bank's research paper, a paper entitled June 2020 edition, Bloomberg Crypto Outlook. Researchers at Bloomberg said that the same forces supporting gold could positively affect Bitcoin, saying, the same forces buoying gold support Bitcoin, yet the supply of the crypto is more constrained. Adoption, by default, is the primary Bitcoin metric, and our indicators remain positive. The most secretive Bitcoin wallet just moved nearly $1 billion. Where has it gone? Another Bitcoin wallet. Gold versus Bitcoin. $2.8 billion fake bullion scam highlights Bitcoin's benefits. A huge corruption scandal involving Chinese loans backed by fake gold is reminding people how great Bitcoin is. If you have Bitcoin in your wallet, it can't be fake. If it's accepted by your wallet, it is Bitcoin and it can be sent to someone else. It's not the same for gold. This massive gold vault in China, they'd been taking out loans against the gold vault, and it turned out that the gold vault was fake. I'd hate to see that same thing happen here in the United States, where the Federal Reserve gold vault of Fort Knox hasn't been audited since the 50s. No one's been in there, and the American people don't have any live online webcams where we can just sit there and look at all of our gold. Wouldn't that be great? Bitcoin.org maintainer calls for the removal of Cobra. The website owner then fires him. Infamous and controversial owner of Bitcoin.org, Cobra is under fire recently, and a number of community members have asked to see the website removed from his possession. The initial argument was sparked by the website's maintainer, Will Binns, who told the public that Bitcoin.org was in danger of being compromised, ironically just like Bitcoin.com, the place that's publishing this article. Since then, Cobra has decided to fire Binns, and the crypto community has been very focused on watching this quarrel unfold. It's very likely that Cobra will soon sell Bitcoin.org to the highest bidder. I don't know who it's going to be, but Bitcoin.com was bought by Roger Ver and then turned into a site that supports Bitch, or Bitcoin Cash, more than Bitcoin. Yes, it's just that funny. And it sounds like the same thing is happening soon to Bitcoin.org. I blame Cobra. Also, FYI, there's a great community episode, I think it's season 5, where they have a G.I. Joe animated community show. So check that out. Also, check out the World Crypto Network t-shirts at worldcryptonetwork.store. You can get World Crypto Network, the mug, Treasures Don't Float, the t-shirt, Bitcoin Not Bombs, the Bitcoin Happening 2020 edition by Davi Barker, and World Crypto Network, the shirt. Show your support for World Crypto Network by buying stuff at worldcryptonetwork.store. There's also a link on the website and below this YouTube video. Hey, that's neat. Check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast on Apple iTunes and many other places where podcasts are served. It's almost up to date. Just a couple of new episodes. I just keep making them. Checking out the price of Bitcoin, it's down 0.45% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,157, a high of 9,244, and a low of 9,077. That's $1 for 10,921 Bitcoins. Volume was a little low for a weekday, with only 2,155 Bitcoins changing hands. Checking out the news, we've got news, and news. We've got a lot of news. Shout out to Crypto Thane. Sounds like he's in Nova Scotia, and he wants to show the president this is what wearing masks and taking the coronavirus seriously looks like. That's right, Nova Scotia in Canada has no active cases of COVID-19. The last new case was identified on June the 9th. Way to go, Nova Scotia. It's not quite the same here back in Nevada. Statewide cases are up 6.59% for cumulative test positivity. Daily test positivity rate is down, but the important number, the number you've all been waiting for, hospitalizations are up 49% this week in Nevada. If you live in Nevada, as Jeff Huang, Rival School X, warns, do not wait for bars and casinos to close or for the governor to issue a stay-at-home order. Use your head. Stay away from the Strip and downtown, and probably just mostly stay at home. We've certainly been doing enough of that. John Cleese, comedian, actor, and Monty Python, says, "I wonder what Putin will do now that he realizes he can no longer hope that his poodle will be reelected. Will he be able to hang on to any of the favors Trump contrived for him, like G8 or hushing up the bounty story?" John Cleese forecasts a lot of secret calls between Putin and Trump. Caitlin Collins, CNN, writes, 7 lawmakers were just briefed on the reports about Russians offering bounties to Taliban-linked militants to kill U.S. troops. They only briefed Republicans. There's nothing to see here. They're just giving the red team a head start on the blue team. Meanwhile, this weekend we learned that Trump knew that Russia was paying Taliban troops to kill Americans. He was briefed, and he did nothing. Now, Republicans are doing nothing to bring Trump to account. It's like we're surrounded by traitors. Check out the 83 tons of gold bars used as collateral but turned out to be nothing but gilded copper. This is why we use Bitcoin. Yes, but remember, many of the Bitcoin exchanges right now claim not to use fractional reserves, but they won't let us see their reserves. We don't know if they're fractional or not. Be careful when using Bitcoin exchanges. Another hilarious tweet and joke about our friends Ken and Karen who protected their house with a machine gun. That's right, they went out on the lawn to protect against protesters who weren't even there for them, didn't even have anything to do with them. They were walking by their house to get to the mayor's house. But they drew all the attention on themselves, and now they're internet stars. I'm sure this turns out great for them. Check out this hilarious image. It says, "I just wanted to grill." It kind of has a Miami Vice vibe to it. The House Judiciary Committee is proposing to finalize a system of inherent contempt to punish administration officials who stonewall their investigations. Could have done this last year. Might be too little too late, but it's good to see steps going in the right direction. It's still been 3 days and Trump hasn't made a statement condemning Russia or Putin. He knows now, and he still hasn't done anything about it. It's almost as though he owes Putin money. I wonder. The exodus from the Trump economic team continues. The acting chair of the White House Economic Council is gone. The senior White House economic advisor is gone. Deputy Director of National Economic Council, senior White House negotiator with Congress, and the top Treasury official overseeing the nation's banks. It's almost like all the rats are fleeing a sinking ship. Look for more of this soon. Crypto Graffiti writes, the 83 tons of fake gold bars, he's got a better name for them. How about shit bars? Yes, shit coins and shit bars. We still had a pretty major fire right here in Las Vegas, out in the country near the city. They used tankers to drop fire retardant on the mahogany fire. This tanker flew all the way in from St. George, Utah. Isn't it amazing how the states help each other out in times of crisis, and yet we still have a national government to take care of things when we have crises? We can all work together. And wouldn't it be a great idea to shoot fireworks off the top of Mount Rushmore in a few days? Even though local officials have warned, please don't shoot fireworks off. It's the middle of the dry season. Everything just might catch on fire. But, you know, the boss wants a good show. California's slide from coronavirus success to the danger zone began on Memorial Day. That's right. Everyone went out to picnic and hang out with their family and friends and spread that virus. Yes, you just can't take your guard down for the virus. It's everywhere, all the time. The White House is briefing people on the Russian murder of U.S. troops today. Only Republicans are invited. This is obviously part of the cover-up. Trump's a traitor. Always has been, always will be. And check out, we've got some hilarious new images here as the couple everyone loves to meme continues to pay off with all the great jokes. Yes, I moved the buttons around and I don't know where the buttons are. Check it out right here. We've got giant Karen fighting a line of troops in the desert. She's rocking that boat from left to right. There she is with some Spanish conquistadors, showing that anger. And there's one more threatening a line of Iraqi tanks. They look quite scared. I think it's quite effective. Matt Gaetz said, "In America, your job is illegal. You're locked in your home. Borders don't exist. MS-13 lives next door, and the police aren't coming when the mob arrives. This is all of us." But really, Stone Kettle writes back to the representative from Florida, "Actually, this is you right now in Trump's America. Frightened clods, scared of their own shadows, drunk, armed to the teeth with weapons they don't know how to use, endangering the lives of others while defending racism and hate. This is your America, Matt. Own it." All right, let's keep going. Nevada, Clark County is up to 14,607 COVID cases this morning, an increase of 697 from yesterday. Statewide totals are at 17,888, with a 7-day average of new daily cases around 615 a day. So today is above average. Way to go, Team Virus. Shout out to India. India bans TikTok and other Chinese apps over security concerns. That's right, we've been talking about how the new Apple update showed that TikTok was stealing from the clipboard, but then a user on Reddit studied TikTok and things got a whole lot worse. TikTok is trying to steal everything it can about your phone. From the name of your phone and its memory, to its Wi-Fi networks, to other apps that you have installed, even trying to steal other apps that you might have deleted. Yes, TikTok is a data mining app, disguised as a video app. Nice. George Conway writes, "This Russia bounty story is as huge a presidential scandal as there can be. It's an order of magnitude more outrageous than what he got impeached for, even though the Ukraine scandal was plainly criminal from the beginning. And it's clearly not going away." Sad story in the New York Times. They did some research and they found more than 70 cases where the words "I can't breathe" have been said by people in custody of police, some of whom were murdered by deadly police restraints. These words are so powerful because we naturally recoil at the idea of ignoring another human's plea for something so basic as air. But we found dozens of such deaths in custody. Unfortunately, this will be a long thread. Check out the article in the New York Times, "I Can't Breathe, 3 words, 70 cases, the tragic history of I Can't Breathe." Daniel Rothberg writes, "With fires near Mount Charleston and Reno, I can't stop thinking about this. Fire crews are responding during a pandemic. Evacuations during a pandemic. This is what wildfire managers feared. And this, most fires in Nevada last year were human-caused." It's a sad story by Lo Kin Hee from Hong Kong. He says, "I was too young, 13 years old, to feel anything about the handover in 1997. I thought I knew after reading lots of books and articles when I grew up and got into politics. I only find out this month that I actually knew nothing. The worries and insecurities that Hong Kongers are facing are now the real deal. Political organizations may be disbanded. Politicians and activists might be arrested. The free press, maybe no more. We voiced our support to mainland dissidents in the past, and suddenly we become them. We might really need a lesson from them now. It took the CCP 30 years of total blackout to wipe June 4th out of the people's mind, but they will not be able to do the same to Hong Kong, where people are used to free flow of information and download VPN apps right away when the national security law was announced last month. The situation in Hong Kong continues to get worse. If you're in Hong Kong and you have the option, leave. Taiwan and the United Kingdom are both accepting refugees from Hong Kong. You could try the US as well, although I'm not sure about the status. So Taiwan and UK, great options to get out of Hong Kong. Kumal Najani, comedian, Silicon Valley, writes, "I could hear multiple parties in my neighborhood on Saturday night. I hope they were the best parties of all time. Let's close this human experiment out strong." And this is, of course, a joke on the announcement from the LA County health officials who issued a dire warning Monday that the conditions amid the coronavirus pandemic are deteriorating rapidly, and the highly contagious virus is spreading swiftly in the community. Not a good time for a house party. The virus continues to grow in Nevada. Hospitalizations are up to 555 confirmed or suspected COVID cases. That's 182 more than a week ago. The WHO warns that the coronavirus pandemic is speeding up as countries ease lockdown rules. Well, where were you 2 weeks ago? We could have told you that then. Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas is filing for bankruptcy protection and laying off the majority of their employees. This is a very unfortunate story, but in reality, Cirque was in big trouble before the pandemic, and the pandemic really only finished them. They had about 6 shows in Las Vegas, and hopefully this is just a restructuring bankruptcy, and they'll be back, because I never got to see any of them. It would have been fun. But even for the cheap seats, Cirque seats are like $80 or something. So that's not happening. I'd rather go to a comedy club for free. And now you don't go anywhere ever. So a new strain of flu that has the potential to become a pandemic has been identified in China by scientists. It emerged recently and is carried by pigs, but can infect humans, they say. So it was only 9 months ago or something like that, back in December, January, when I read a similar article about a strange case of pneumonia in China that wouldn't go away and was spreading to more and more people. And now, look where we are. So everyone's joking and they don't want it to happen, but we just might have another swine flu going on in China. And now this time it wouldn't play. Last time it wouldn't play. You guys didn't enjoy the audio and the whole show broke down. But this time I have it on good authority. It's going to work. So here's Tammy Duckworth, senator from Illinois, speaking in Congress today on C-SPAN 2. Let's give it a try.
Saying that Trump administration officials are prone to lying is like saying they're prone to breathing. But there are 2 possible scenarios before us. Both are damning for the man who is supposed to be in charge. The first is that Trump was never actually looped in. In this case, ignorance isn't exculpatory. I didn't know that our adversary was helping kill American troops because no one told me is not an excuse for the commander-in-chief of the greatest military on earth. It is, in fact, a confession of incompetence. If he was truly never told, then that means that his own staff either believes he's so compromised by Russia or they consider him so counterproductive to the running of the country that they thought it necessary to hide critical information about our national security from him. And if it is true that those who knew of this threat of American lives failed to tell the president, then we should expect a president with such an affinity for firing senior officials to have no qualms about acting swiftly to remove the cabinet-level officials who failed to share this critical information with him. The second, far more likely option is that they're covering for him, that Trump knew, that of course Trump knew, yet he still did not act. That this America First president went right on placing Russian interests ahead of American lives, kept on acting as Putin's lackey, trying to score Russia and invite back into what would be the G8, even as he learned that they were working with terrorists to target our troops. Then, when the news finally broke on Friday, he decided to lie about what he had known all along, focus more on protecting his own personal reputation than protecting the troops sacrificing for our country overseas on his orders. Well, at least one American service member is reportedly dead as a result of these bounties. And while he spent his weekend golfing, lying, and making sure the buck stopped anywhere but with him, our troops in hotspots around the world were forced to wonder whether they might be next, whether a bounty might be placed on their heads tomorrow, and whether President Trump would even care enough to respond if that was the case.
Of course, we all know the president did have a response this weekend. He went golfing. Yes, that's right. The president went golfing. What a great response that was. There was an abortion ruling a couple of days ago. Pretty surprising stuff. John Roberts, conservative on the court, joined with the liberals to keep the right of abortion. Yes, that's right. It was right down to the line, but Roberts said that the same question had been asked 4 years ago. Thus, it became precedent, and Roberts did not overturn precedent. Meanwhile, Justice Kavanaugh, just appointed by Trump and voted yes by Senator Collins from Maine, voted no. He voted with the conservatives, ignoring stare decisis and recent precedent. Never forget that Susan Collins lied to you about Justice Kavanaugh. The president spent the weekend golfing. I wonder what that did for the coronavirus. Oh, it looks like it's going almost straight up. Almost straight up, and the president's golfing. That makes me feel really confident in the government. If the U.S. goes from rich, world-straddling colossus to floundering, dysfunctional, developing nation in just a few decades, it will be one of the most spectacular instances of civilizational decline in world history. And it might just have kicked off with the coronavirus. The encryption wars are back in Congress, and this time they might actually pass a bill. Right now, we rely on secure technologies like never before. The Earn It Act and the Lawful Access to Encrypted Data Act are both attacks on encryption that must not succeed. Yes, that's right. They want to go back to their old ways and ban strong encryption because they can't break it. If they can't ban it, they want to put a back door in. And if they put a back door in, we all know the back door will be used by criminals and politicians. What's the difference? The coronavirus is mutating and likely much more infectious now. The coronavirus mutation has taken over the world. Susan Collins said she had no idea that Brett Kavanaugh was so anti-choice. Yes, that's very funny, Senator Collins. We all know that President Trump ran on the whole idea of changing the court. The religious people have wanted this court for 20 or 30 years, and they got it, thanks to your vote. Thanks so much, Senator Collins. And the most important story of the day, the real reason for redoing this show, according to Midnight's Edge, a fantastic movie rumors video site that I check out on YouTube. Right here, subscribe to Midnight's Edge. They're great. Disney is considering erasing the Star Wars sequel trilogy from official canon. This would be the best news ever for Star Wars and the best news for the sequel canon. Yes, that's right. You take all of those new movies and you say it was a multiverse. It was the Emperor looking through a magic mirror called the Veil of the Force. That makes it very real now. The Veil of the Force. And then suddenly we don't even have those movies anymore. We can go back to the books. We can get the Dark Empire trilogy with Thrawn. And we can start from there. Wouldn't that be a great story? The rebellion becomes the new republic. And they're starting to get things going right there on Palpatine's old world. When out of nowhere comes a rogue Imperial fleet from the far edge, governed by Admiral Thrawn, a blue person in a white uniform. Yes, Thrawn, a Force user in his own right, attacks the New Republic. Much better story. Much better story. Please let this be true. Check out this video. It's a really good one. It's called Is Disney... Well, it's grammatically horrible, but is Disney considering erasing the Star Wars sequel trilogy from official canon? Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. There's been a great story that came out recently about President Trump's phone calls. They say that Trump's phone calls with foreign heads of state, allies, or enemies are generally abusive. He pushes them around. He just seems crazy on the calls. They're actually very worried that if the transcripts of any of these calls leaked, even to Republican members, that they would lose their mind because of the way that he's talking to our allies and other dignitaries. It's all about him. It's all about his reelection. And as it says in the quote, the calls caused former top Trump deputies to conclude that the president was often delusional. The calls are so unusual, confirmed a German official, that special measures were taken in Berlin to ensure that their contents remained secret. So once again, we got one of these calls from the Ukraine impeachment story. It was actually the call that led to the whole thing. The call that Trump called a perfect call. A perfect call. And it was perfect by his definition because he leaned on him, but he didn't say exactly what he was leaning on him. It was like a mafia call. That's a mighty nice country you got there. It's a shame if anything should happen to it. Senator Kavanaugh continues to defend her Kavanaugh vote, but we all know that doesn't matter. Kavanaugh has a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, and despite the assurances he made to Susan Collins that he wouldn't overturn Roe, he just voted to overturn Roe. So great job, Susan Collins, really nailing it out there in Maine. I wonder how this will affect your re-election chances. Really. Edward Snowden says, you too can get access to the hundreds of petabytes of data, perfect records of our private lives that the NSA routinely ingests about people who have never been suspected of any wrongdoing. They'll tell you this is legal. They'll say it's constitutional, but you'll know better. The NSA is advertising on Twitter for software or systems engineers to help spy on the American people, even the ones that haven't done anything wrong. All right, let's keep going. Breaking new research from Xinjiang uncovers evidence of birth prevention and mass female sterilization in China of the Uyghur minority. The Xinjiang atrocity fulfills a UN Genocide Convention criteria, imposing measures intended to prevent births. And as we all know from the John Bolton book, President Xi told President Trump about his concentration camps where he's moved the Uyghurs, and President Trump said it was fine. Yes, no problem. U.S. has no problem with China performing genocide on the Uyghur minority. And now let's check out a country that actually cares about the Uyghurs, a short speech from the United Kingdom.
The Interparliamentary Alliance on China, IPAC, made up of 30 other lawmakers from 16 global legislatures, today published alongside AP research from Professor Adrian Zenz, the world's leading expert on treatment of minorities in Xinjiang province. The report shows that the birth rates of of mostly Uyghur regions plummeted by more than 60% from 2015 to 2018. Across the Xinjiang region, birth rates fell nearly 24% in one single year, compared to just 4.2% in the nation as a whole. Worse, it's now clear this is directly the result of government actions. For unearthed documents, these are government documents, mandate that birth control violations that come about due, and I quote this, due to the influence of extreme religious thinking should be, quote, dealt with severely, and those unable to pay fines should be dealt with through coercive measures. These are in the documents, and including internment. Now, Mr. Zen's paper concludes that these are part of a statewide crackdown which includes mass sterilisation of women. This report corroborates the many horrific personal testimonies many of us have heard. The Genocide Convention maintains that birth prevention targeted at minority groups is indicative of genocide, and the Convention binds individual states to act, not just rely on the international judicial system. Therefore, does my right honourable friend agree with me that the Uyghur people have been and are victims of mass atrocity crimes? I ask that the Foreign Secretary go to the UN and call for an independent inquiry, but I also sadly recognise, Mr. Speaker, that there are ways to deal with this through the UN are almost certainly going to be blocked by China. So given that likelihood, will my right honourable friend at least get the UK to make its own legal determination after weighing up this new evidence? Of course, the world wants to deal with China, but cannot continue as business as usual while this sort of blatant...
And that really is the question. Can we just continue with business as usual with China when they're committing genocide on the Uyghur minority? I also love the House of Parliament there. Isn't it great there? My good old friend, my right honorable friend. They have the nice language for talking to each other. It's even better when they say it more sarcastically than it was said there. Let's see. Putin's GOP is trending now in the United States. And here's a video from earlier, unfortunately from Las Vegas. It's a bit of a palate cleanser. Last time the sound didn't work. I think it's a much better video with the sound. Let's take a quick look and let's relax with some less serious news. Watching this girl trying to refill her car.
She already did this once.
She
just drove. Okay.
So she knows that now.
Well, this is the second time she's done this. So she should now drive so that it's on the driver's side. The tank is on the driver's side.
The same side as her, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But she pulled a circle last time. No way is she going to do it again. Now she's going to back into the right. Yeah. No, she had it. If she would have... No. Oh, no.
Is she just going to the same...
No, she would have had to pull around... Oh, no.
Does she just not know which side the tank is on? Or does she think she's...
No, she knows. She has to know. She just saw that it's not on the passenger side. Okay, so she's pulled up again on the wrong side. Hang on.
Whoa, that person just whipped in there real quick, like...
Hang on. Is she going to realize it? Does she see it? She walks right past the gas tank. Okay. So now she's got it.
She has to.
So which one is she going to pull into? She'll pull around to
the other side.
Yeah, she'll go to the other side.
Or
so,
even this over here.
Yeah, she could back up. She could back up and get into it.
Okay.
What's she doing? She's pulling around. Okay.
Great. She's not.
Oh no. Oh no.
She did it again. There's no way.
No. No, she's pulling. Oh, this. Oh,
she's backing up. Maybe she didn't notice.
No, she's getting out of the car. She's getting out of the car.
Again?
Oh my.
Unbelievable. 3 tries, and they said she did it a 4th time before then. So pretty embarrassing to Nevada and our education system. For her defense, I'm sure she thought that something was wrong with the pumps, that it wasn't a problem of where she was putting the car, but somehow that pump was incompatible with her car. And if she just tried another and just tried another, unfortunately, the video ends there. We'll never know if she successfully puts gas in her car. But shout out to Las Vegas there, though. Those are our people. Jesus. Arizona governor is ordering bars, nightclubs, gyms, movie theaters, and water parks to close for at least 30 days over the virus. Better late than never. Again, the closing up that barn door after the cows have gone. Yes. Roger Stone has been ordered to report to prison in 15 days. Start the countdown. He's got a pardon incoming. Pardon. Also, check out that great documentary, Get Me, Roger Stone, 2017. It's probably on Netflix. I think I could watch it again. Gosh, it's so good. Even if it's not true. I don't know what's true anymore. No one knows. Stone Kettle writes, has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a fuck about the rules? Market 0. Next frame. Little Lebowski quote there. Keep you going. Senators will have access to intelligence on the Russian bounties on U.S. troops, but why are they only getting it now? Why wasn't the Gang of 8 briefed on this months ago? If this information never leaked, the senators would still be in the dark. Especially unclear why they would brief our allies, such as the British, and not brief the senators. equal branches of government? The Russian bounty on Intel was in Trump's daily briefing in the spring, reports CNN, which means Trump knew and did nothing. Because he's a traitor, Trump should be removed. Hashtag Putin's GOP. Scott Dworkin. Aaron Rupar writes, either Trump didn't read it, which is bad, or he read it and did nothing, which is even worse. Those are also the title of Michael Jackson and Weird Al Yankovic's twin albums. Little 80s humor there. The intelligence on the Russian bounty plot was included in the president's daily brief earlier this year. They say it was on February 27th, might have even been briefed in March of 2019, and there was an attack later in April of 2019, a car bombing that may be linked directly to these bounties. Once again, we talked about this yesterday. There's records of everything, right? There's even a stamp that says, President has seen. And you stamp that on every document that the president has seen. Then it goes into a database. Documents that the president has seen. Why would you lie about this? It was this weekend, right? Just this weekend. It broke on Friday. They lied on Saturday. The lie lasted on Sunday. It broke on Monday that they had this intelligence. Now it's Tuesday. So what did it help? I guess it got them 2 or 3 days in a wag the dog type style. But still, there's 130 days till the election, something like that. Like, you're not going to make it 130 days on that lie. It's easily proven by the documentary evidence. Now, yes, I'm afraid that the next defense is it was in the president's daily brief. I was shown it. It was put in front of my face, but I didn't read it, which is not a good excuse. Then the question is, why didn't any of your people brief you on it? And then all of his people say, the president doesn't like negative stories on Russia, so we don't give it to him. And then it's like, what? You give it to the British, you give it to our allies, you give him options on what to do, he decides to do nothing, and you're just like, oh, well. There's a lot more on this story. It's going to keep developing. I know people wanted it to go away. They're like, they were quoting me in the chat. They're like, the Taliban denies it. Russia denies it. The New York Times is fake news. But the story just keeps coming. Qasim Rashad writes, Black people said, stop killing us. The USA said, I hear you. No more Aunt Jemima. Black people said, what? Stop killing us. US said, I gotcha. We'll stop depicting Uncle Ben as black. Listen, stop killing us. Pass the George Floyd Policing Act. USA, yes, master bedroom is offensive. Now it's just primary bedroom. Yes, primary and secondary. Oh, facepalm. Leader McConnell is now saying we must have no stigma, none, about wearing masks when we leave our homes and come near other people. Wearing simple face coverings is not about protecting ourselves. It's about protecting everyone we encounter. Well, I wonder who's been saying the opposite of that. I wonder who's not been wearing masks at every turn. Could it be your president? Maybe, McConnell, you should speak to the president about this. As Dr. Bidikofer says, yes, the GOP is shitting their pants right now because they let their crazy show too much. It got a lot of people killed, and now they know they're screwed. Yes, the idea of politicizing masks has no doubt led to the deaths of many Americans. It's almost like they did it on purpose. Here in Nevada, we have the highest estimated rate of COVID-19 transmission in the country. We're number one. We're number one. As Las Vegas locally says, what the hell are you doing? And if you really want to know, just go over to @VitalVegas, and he continues to support the coronavirus. Hashtag Team Virus. We got to get out there and spread that virus. That's what they've been saying here in Nevada. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, They're closing the beaches for the 4th of July weekend. Yes, they're doing the opposite of the movie Jaws, and they're actually trying to take away the coronavirus's food. If you take away its food, it will starve. It's just like the shark. Eric Holder, former Attorney General, writes, "You want to save lives and the economy? Wear a damn mask." And he's right. Dr. Gupta on CNN last night said, "I hate to say it, but it's predictable. The virus is the virus. Nothing has changed." That's really sad. It hasn't. Dr. Fauci says a coronavirus vaccine won't work unless enough Americans take it. Colin Peters replies, "Here's a fun thing to think about. What if a vaccine is developed, but enough twits won't take it and won't wear masks that the disease is never eliminated, and we have to take a shot every 3 months for the rest of our lives?" Oh boy, that sounds great. Individual freedom. Woo! Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut says, "I just reviewed the intel. It's not a hoax, Mr. President. And if you continue ignoring the facts, more soldiers and Marines are going to die." Seems like it's getting worse. Here in Las Vegas, the Golden Tiki in Chinatown will be closed for the next few days after management learned of a possible exposure to a person who tested positive for COVID-19. It's example after example. You can't reopen the country until you get rid of the virus. We told you this weeks ago, and they reopened the country anyway. How's that working out? How's that working out? Joe Scarborough at MSNBC, former Republican, writes, "Think about this. You're being told that they notified the British government, but they didn't even tell the President of the United States. Now I ask, how stupid do they think you are?" It was a pretty good speech, but it's like 5 minutes long, so I'm afraid of playing anything so long these days, so we're going to keep going. Meanwhile, in Florida, they won't release their hospitalization numbers, so we just don't know. As the graphic says, there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere, at least in Florida. Update on Ken and Karen from St. Louis. They've hired a lawyer, and someone found his website. Watkins successfully defended a white elementary school principal accused of felonious sexual misconduct involving 10 African-American third-grade students. The principal was fully acquitted. Sounds like a great lawyer. A bombshell report by CNN late Monday claims Donald Trump is so unprepared, outplayed, and abusive on phone calls with foreign leaders that he poses a national security threat. The next step is that we get the transcripts of these calls. They say they're readouts, so they're created by a computer program that would analyze the call and create a passable transcript. It's possible that they were reviewed. Sometimes they review these to fix obvious mistakes, but there are transcripts of these calls, and they will leak, just like the Ukraine call. Here's another one of these jokes that are going around. They're pretty funny. Everyone said, defund the police. The mayor said, okay, we'll rename streets and paint murals. Everyone said, no, we said defund. Celebrity said, okay, we'll stop voicing cartoon characters. Everyone said, that's not what we said. Hulu said, fine, we'll remove the Golden Girls episode with mud masks. Everyone said, what is happening? And I just think we'd rather do anything than address the real problem. The real problem is so many times when the police are called on black people end up dead. This is a huge structural problem. Like, we've seen it happen too many times. I can't even count them all. I mean, Elijah McClain is big on my mind right now. Obviously, George Floyd, he's like the reason for the season at this point, but so many others, Eric Gardner, just so many others. It just keeps happening. But the cartoon characters and the murals and the Golden Girls was not the problem here. Address the problem. Change the police department. Over in Hong Kong, Chief Executive Carrie Lam, who's sold out her people, but she probably had no choice, she had to pay the mortgage, said she will not give responses to questions about the national security law. End of story. Then she talks about job employment assistance measures. Yes, it's a sad day in Hong Kong. You should get out of there. Check out good old Jason Scott at Text Files on Twitter. He's making a call for computer shopper magazines, especially of the 1984 through 1995 era, when they were so loaded up with BBS listings that I bet we can find tens of thousands not previously listed. Yes, he's working on a list of the names and phone numbers of all BBSs ever. Oh, I forgot, I'm talking to young people. BBS is a bulletin board system. It was a way to link two computers together with a modem. Modem was like a way to send data over the phone line, right? So you'd call into someone else's computer and you could send them messages just on that computer. After you hung up, someone else could call in and eventually someone would get your message. If you're lucky, they had a multi-line BBS. You could chat with other people. Generally, you'd play door games where you'd log on like once a day, make your moves, then go off. Then someone else would log on, stuff like that. That's what we used to do back in the day. So he's working on a list of those. And Computer Shopper was a great magazine. It's where we used to drool on all the things that we couldn't afford, like a 1X CD burner that cost more than $2,000 or something. It was crazy. So, but eventually, 5 years later, we got a CD burner. It was pretty amazing. We've been having some problems with the simulator here. I'm not sure why the graphic didn't show, but it's up at the top. I was talking about my new theory that we might just be stuck in Groundhog Day. Here we go. Oh, cool. There's still a chance to vote if you want to vote at Mad Bitcoin's Twitter. This tweet is pinned to the top of my page. I figured it all out. We're in a simulation based on Groundhog Day. Every day is slightly different, but mostly the same. It's okay. I can take it. You can tell me. And let's go ahead and vote for true. So far, 38 people have voted in the poll. It's 81% true, 18% false. A lot of people agree that we're in a Groundhog Day based simulation and that every day is slightly different, but still the same. I posited maybe the simulator is on power saving mode. It used to be able to simulate all kinds of stories, but now only this one. And remember the last lines of the film, this is different. Anything different is good. And that's the end result. That's how you know that the coronavirus pandemic and staying home forever is working. Yes, that and all of the TV series that you're watching and hopefully all of the books that you're reading, though I've been distracted, and all the video games that you're beating. Yes, all the good things that we're doing while we're staying home. Gotta remember to stop and drink water. The Culinary Union in Las Vegas says that 19 members have died from COVID-19. Today, it filed a lawsuit against several strip hotels, alleging that they are not following health guidance or protecting workers. Yes, that's right. They knew that only the employees were wearing masks. They didn't require mask wearing for their guests. Thus, they exposed all of their employees to all of the viruses brought by their guests. This was a terrible idea on its face. You don't need to institute it to test and see what happened, but they did, and now 19 members of the Culinary Union are dead. The casinos are going to have to pay. This is a bad lawsuit for the casinos. Caitlin Collins from CNN writes, President Trump doesn't fully or regularly read the president's daily brief, something that is well known within the White House. He is instead orally briefed 2 or 3 times a week by intelligence officials. resist the urge to make an orally joke there. I'm just going to move on. So yes, the president doesn't read the briefing. This ignorance defense is going to be trotted out, and it's up to you. He volunteered to become president. He sought it out. He wanted to be this. Then he became it, and he doesn't even read the brief. They even say they'll adjust the brief. Some presidents like a longer brief. Some presidents like a lot of charts and graphs. Some like figures and facts. Other people like it to be told to them in a story, like a narrative, and they'll have someone write it for them. But not Trump. He just doesn't like to read at all, which has been quite a problem. I think they tried a pictograph version of the brief, illustrated, animated. They got some comic book guys working on it, but it's difficult to have a really fast turnaround on those. And then again, you can't trust the comic book guys with your top secret information. So it's very difficult to get somebody to draw a proper brief that he'll read. But even then, he doesn't read comic books either, so that wouldn't work. We've got a brand new ad from Act Blue. It's pretty strong stuff. It says hashtag Trump kills Florida. And this political season is only getting started up. Let's look at this new ad from Midas Touch.
Florida. Everyone in the media was saying Florida was going to be like New York or Italy, and that has not happened.
We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself.
The state just reported its highest daily death toll. The governor is still expected to announce plans to reopen.
We have to get our sports back. I'm tired of watching baseball games that are 14 years old.
Governor Ron DeSantis has decided that professional wrestling is an essential service.
You go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect.
Trump said that the sun kills the virus.
Wait 2 weeks. Florida's going to be next. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened.
Some businesses that had reopened have had to close back down again.
Millions have filed unemployment claims.
More than 4,000 new infections.
Almost 9,000 cases.
9,600 new cases of COVID-19.
That's because of the leadership that President Trump provided from early on.
Everyone in the...
Another chilling negative ad right there from Midas Touch. Maybe some of the strongest advertising we've seen since George Herbert Walker Bush and the Willie Horton ad. I remember Willie Horton was released from prison by Governor Dukakis, and Vice President at the time, Bush, attacked Dukakis over and over again when it turned that Willie Horton had, I believe, raped and murdered a woman while he was out of prison. So negative ads have really expanded a lot since then, but wow, what a quick turnaround by Midas Touch. Actor Ron Perlman says, I cannot believe this needs saying again, but Breonna Taylor's murderers are Jonathan Mattingly, Brett Hankinson, and Miles Cosgrove. One has been fired, and 2 are still being paid. Where are their arrests, prosecutions, and prison time? Justice for Breonna Taylor, who, as you recall, the police had suspected her boyfriend of some kind of drug crime. So because of that, they had broken into their house in the middle of the night and shot her like 7 times in her bed. It was all a mistake, a misunderstanding, but she's still dead. New information says that the White House was aware in early 2019 of intel indicating that Russia was secretly offering bounties to the Taliban for the deaths of Americans. That's a full year earlier than has been previously reported. Trump needs to be removed immediately. Here's another one of these. We said defund the cops. Juneteenth is an official holiday. Okay, but the cops. We changed a syrup bottle. The cops? We're taking down old sitcom episodes. The cops? Recasting black cartoon characters. And what about the cops? Haven't we done enough? You sound a bit ungrateful. Much like Occupy Wall Street, it seems like the movement is losing their message and being ignored, which is really sad because they've been in the streets for weeks. What more could they do? It's always been clear. No justice, no peace. And it looks like the White House is going to have to come up with a fresh batch of denials because they were aware in early 2019 of the intelligence indicating that Russia was secretly offering bounties to the Taliban for the deaths of Americans. That's a full year earlier than had been previously reported. So this story is getting worse. Shout out to Amy Klobuchar. She says, I would rather put ballots in envelopes than voters in the hospital. That's a good point. Mail-in ballots is much safer. It sounds like Macy's is working on a terrorist attack in New York City. Macy's, the department store company, claims that they're going to set off fireworks for 6 nights in New York City, and they're not going to inform anyone. The displays will be unannounced to prevent gatherings. This is like this is an attack. So yes, unannounced random fireworks displays in New York City with no warning for a week. This is a great plan. They actually, it's funny, I just recall now, they had a 30 Rock episode about this very thing. What's his name? Jack Donaghy, the character played by Alec Baldwin, wants to set off fireworks in New York City, and he doesn't tell anyone, and he sets them off at night. And it was closer to the 9/11 attacks when the episode was released. But yes, there's absolute chaos, absolute chaos in the city. So they've already tried this on 30 Rock. But then again, I guess you don't watch many sitcoms if you're in the New York City government. I don't know. Strange decision to allow that. Yes, John Bolton briefed Trump in March 2019 about the Russian bounties. In assessing whether the bounties resulted in killings, officials are focused in particular on an attack on an American convoy that occurred in April 2019. So if the president had done something about it in March 2019, maybe we could have prevented the attack in April. That really gives you something to think about. Makes it very actionable, yes? The choice of doing nothing really didn't work out so well. Ted Lieu, House candidate for California's 33rd district, says the specificity and number of leaks about this Russian bounty story is astounding. Why would that occur? His view is that there are Donald Trump administration officials who are horrified that the President of the United States has still taken no action against Russia, which paid people to kill U.S. troops. Almost sounds like an act of war, huh? Yes, American officials provided a written briefing in late February to Trump laying out their conclusions that a Russian military unit offered and paid bounties to Taliban-linked militants to kill U.S. and coalition troops in Afghanistan. One of the officials said the item appeared in Mr. Trump's brief in late February. The other cited February 27th specifically. So much like the August 8th PDB given to George W. Bush, bin Laden determined to strike within the U.S., we will soon find out the title of this Russian bounty program from the president's daily brief, February 27th. Cyrus Azadi says, John, I love your comedy, but I can't say the same about your political commentary. Although one could argue that much of your comedy was a political commentary of some sort. So there you have it. John Cleese says, you're right about the last bit. Your sense of humor is bound to reflect your personality. Re my political views. Do you feel Trump is doing a good job? How do you rate his competence, his ability to absorb information, his decency, and his mindfulness? It's okay. You can think about it. I'll give you time. Do you really think he's doing a good job? Do you think he's competent? Do you think he absorbs information well? Do you think he's a decent person? Do you think he pays mind? Is he a mindful person? I wonder. Fantastic police reform out of Colorado. Definitely a state to watch. Colorado has ended qualified immunity. They're also throwing out any cop's testimony if they turn off their body cams at any point, and will assume malfeasance. Body cam footage cannot be edited and must be released in its entirety within 3 weeks of an incident. Fantastic from Colorado. This is a law. They passed this. It's over. It's done. Other states should follow suit. As we said earlier, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy has confirmed that he's seen the U.S. intel, showing that Russia placed bounties on U.S. troops. He says it's not a hoax, and American lives are in jeopardy. Trump must resign. All right, let's keep going. According to Leo Weiss, by tomorrow, half of Hong Kong, including some of its biggest companies, the financial and accounting sector, will have committed treason against the CCP by not aggressively denouncing the strike. Beijing's wrath will be colossal. And this was from August 4th, 2019, saying that, yes, Beijing and the companies failed to respond to the umbrella movement and other movements in the street in China, in Hong Kong. And their wrath will be colossal. And now we see the national security law coming down just a year later. The subtext of the Carl Bernstein CNN article. Yes, Woodward and Bernstein. Bernstein also responsible for breaking the new article about Trump's foreign phone calls being crazy and out of control. It says to Schooley that there are a lot of people around Trump who know that he's an existential threat to the country, and they're freaking out. That's scary. As he says, seems like now would be a good time to band together and hold a press conference. But what do I know? If you have the goods, I'm not sure how you rationalize your silence as the deaths and suffering mount horrifically due to the ineptitude and corruption of one man. But I guess history is full of sniveling disappointments. Nice stuff from Schooley. Ian Desmond, formerly with the Washington Nationals, put out a major thread on Instagram addressing the current issues of racism in baseball and in America, and said that he will not be playing in this shortened coronavirus-threatened season. Let's read a little bit more from Ian Desmond, baseball player. If baseball is America's pastime, maybe it's never been a more fitting one than now. The golden rules of baseball: don't have fun, don't pimp home runs, don't play with character. Those are white rules. Desmond writes, in clubhouses, we've got racist, sexist, homophobic jokes, or flat-out problems. We've got cheating. We've got a minority issue from top down. 1 African-American GM, 2 African-American managers, less than 8% black players, no black majority team owners. He says, the image of Derek Chauvin's knee on the neck of George Floyd, the gruesome murder of a black man in the streets at the hands of a police officer, broke my coping mechanism. Suppressing my feelings became impossible. And I just want to read the closing. This was a pretty long Instagram piece. You should check it out if you want to know more of what Ian Desmond, apparently now an outfielder for the Colorado Rockies, says. He said, the COVID-19 pandemic has made this baseball season one that is a risk I am not comfortable taking. But that doesn't mean I'm leaving baseball behind for the year. I'll be right here at my old Little League, and I'm working with everyone involved to make sure we get Sarasota youth baseball back on track. It's what I can do in the scheme of so much. So I am. With a pregnant wife and 4 young children who have lots of questions about what's going on in the world, home is where I need to be right now. Home for my wife, Chelsea. Home to help. Home to guide. Home to answer my older 3 boys' questions about coronavirus and civil rights and life. Home to be their dad. A great message from Ian Desmond, outfielder for the Colorado Rockies. Scott Dworkin writes, all silent Republicans are in on it. Christopher Bouzet says, Trump's presidency is over. The question now is, will it take the November election to remove him, or will he be forced to resign? I predict we'll know as early as today which way the political winds are blowing. Joe Duman writes, just shut everything down. Suspend all mortgage and rent payments. Give everybody $2,000 a month regardless of employment or means, and call the rest of the year off. Otherwise, we're doomed. We knew this in April, but we pretended we could just wish it away. Joseph Fink, Healthcare is a Human Right, writes, stop trying and failing to figure out how to reopen businesses that can't be opened during a plague. Start paying those businesses and everyone else not to work until the plague is over. There is no other workable solution. And that's what pragmatism is. Pragmatism is trying to solve a problem with the tools you have. You don't try to solve it in an ideological way. You try to solve it with what works. And this would work. The CDC says the United States has too much virus, way too much virus, to try to control the pandemic. We have so many different outbreaks. Just a stark reality check from the CDC's number 2 official who has rarely been quoted on the pandemic. It's still amazing the way the CDC has been almost silent during this pandemic. They're supposed to be in charge of events like this. That's what we pay them for. Armin was walking around Mongkok, and he came across a depressing scene of this Hong Kong diner removing protest art and signs stuck to the outside just hours after the national security law passed. Hong Kong's freedoms are dying in real time. Sarah Cooper writes, Trump tweets white power video. White House, he can't be expected to listen. Trump receives written briefing on military threat. White House, he can't be expected to read. How many hours a day of TV does Trump watch? Did he know that would be on the record too? Yes, someday there'll be a book written all about the TV watching habits of the president. They might even be able to analyze his TiVo for records if it's archived with the rest of his presidential documents. Yes, the president spends hours watching TV. Don't you wish you had that kind of free time? Maybe someday you can be president too. The New York Magazine writes, Trump is seeking re-election on a pro-coronavirus platform. The president is discouraging mask use, cutting funding for testing, and traveling the country to convene potential super spreader events. Yes, it's about time someone actually said it in an article. The president is spreading the coronavirus. I wonder why. I wonder who he really works for. Susan Rice, former ambassador, asks, why is he not acting like a normal American president and expressing solidarity with our troops and determination to punish our arch adversary for these types of behaviors? Yes, questions like this only have one answer, and you're not going to like it. Don't let the Black Lives Matter protests disappear from our screens. This is Minneapolis right now. The protests haven't stopped. Amazing protest. Look at it stretch all the way around that block. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 7, 8 houses long. Difficult to estimate. But you can see just an incredible amount of people out in the street in Minneapolis. Even now, feels like 4 weeks. Feels like 30 days. And still, their demands are unanswered. A new mutant variation of the COVID virus is potentially 10 times more infectious than previous versions. Yes, the virus is getting worse. And you knew it was going to happen. Shout out to Sci-Hub. Sci-Hub is the new open article database, similar to the original JSTOR article database created by Aaron Swartz. According to Sci-Hub, articles downloaded from Sci-Hub were cited 1.7 times more than papers not downloaded from Sci-Hub, and the number of downloads from Sci-Hub was a robust predictor of future citations. It turns out open access to science leads to more citations, which is in fact more science. All science should be open. No more closed journals. The nightmarish withdrawal of the key social support underlying modern parenthood is being presented as a fait accompli, rather than a worst-case scenario that the government is mobilizing to prevent. Yes, remote school is a nightmare, and few in power care. People can't work, the students aren't being taught well, the system's failing on both sides, and no one is doing anything about it. After 6 months and nearly 130,000 deaths, the Trump administration still has no plan to deal with the coronavirus. It's pretty interesting. We have the police problem, we have the coronavirus problem. Both of them need large-scale, big plans to solve them, and we have no plans. I wonder if they'll ever be solved. It's an interesting couple of stories put together here. Nearly half the U.S. population is without a job, showing how far the labor recovery has to go. Meanwhile, American billionaires got $434 billion richer during the pandemic. That's strange. That's strange how that's happening. President Trump was given a written briefing in February on suspected Russian bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan, officials said. As Slava says, wow, this is like Benghazi, only real. If the White House and Congress wanted to get the pandemic under control, they would pay everyone to stay home and create a functioning testing strategy. They could do it. They're choosing not to. As disasterologists always say, disasters are a choice. More strange events from ACM Europe. Used to be the Association for Computer Machinery. ACM Europe calls for an EU-wide carbon tax with no exemptions for computing and strongly recommends against any proof-of-work-based distributed ledger technology. Hey, that's Bitcoin. Due to its exorbitant power consumption. Hooray? I thought this was the Association for Computing Machinery. I thought that we would be protecting computers in this association. A very strange thing. The ACM has gone pretty crazy these days. A lot of us used to be members back in college. It was more like just computer geeks hanging out. But apparently, computer geeks hate computers now. That's very odd. Aaron Rupar writes, I'm not sure that the White House's portrayal as Trump as an oblivious commander-in-chief who's kept in the dark about key intelligence is the defense of his conduct that they think it is. Yes, it doesn't seem to look that good, no matter which side you believe. The Hong Kong Independence Union becomes the latest group to disband, hours after the security law was approved. Its conveyor has fled the city. Demia Soto has also folded, while Student Localism and the HK National Front said that they would only operate overseas. The chilling effect is happening in real time in Hong Kong as the security law has been passed. One thing the Bolton book makes clear is that top Trump administration officials treat the president like a child because he is similarly ignorant. Let's check out this excerpt from John Bolton's book. It's too big, can't read it. While we were milling around, Trump asked me how we could be sanctioning the economy of a country that's 7,000 miles away. I answered, because they are building nuclear weapons and missiles that can kill Americans. That's a good point, he agreed. We walked over to where Pompeo was standing, and Trump said, I just asked John why we were sanctioning 7,000 miles away, and he had a very good answer. Because they could blow up the world. Yes, sir, said Pompeo. Another day at the office. It does sound like they're talking to a child. In highly classified calls with foreign heads of state, President Trump was so consistently unprepared, so often outplayed with leaders like Putin, and so abusive to America's top allies, some senior U.S. officials believe him a danger to national security. Story developing. Trump said on Twitter, we are tracking down the 2 anarchists who threw paint on the magnificent George Washington statue in Manhattan. We have them on tape. They will be prosecuted and face 10 years in prison based upon the Monuments and Statues Act. Turn yourselves in now. Stone Kettle writes, imagine if we had a president who was as outraged about police kneeling on a black man's neck as he is about some statue. It does seem very odd. Breaking news, Elliptic launches support for privacy coins Zcash and Zen. Genesis Trading will be using Elliptic's transaction and walleting monitoring solutions to prevent and detect illicit activity in Zcash and Zen. Great job, privacy coins, he said sarcastically. Yes, they're doing quite a great job. Michael Harriot writes, at least Russia didn't pay the Taliban to disrespect our troops by kneeling during the anthem. Yes, at least there's that. Attorney General Barr says there's no systemic racism in policing. Our data says otherwise. Analyzing data from 100 million stops between 2011 and 2018, researchers used a veil of darkness test to see if black drivers made up a smaller share of stops after sunset. They found strong evidence that police were racially profiling drivers for stops and searches. Carl Reiner has passed away at 98 years old. Carl Reiner, the father of Rob Reiner, a classic comedian, and we're going to talk more about that here in the next few minutes. Here's a video that Carl Reiner did in 2016 in support of the election, but it still really rings true today. Let's check out Carl Reiner with an excellent message.
I'm Carl Reiner. I'm 96 and a half years old, and I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime. I lived through the Great Depression. I served in World War II in our fight to defeat fascism. I've seen the invention of television and performed on television even before my family owned one. But what I've never seen is the American people being lied to every single day and about everything. Lies about climate change, lies about protecting Medicare and Social Security, lies about Russia attacking our elections, lies about protecting people with pre-existing conditions. In my 96 and a half years, I've seen a lot of things, but the one thing I cannot bear to see is America being destroyed by racism, fear-mongering, and lies. Fortunately, there is something we can do about that. On November 6th, we can vote for elected officials who will hold this president accountable. And after we've done that, my personal goal will be to stick around until 2020 and vote to make sure we have a decent, moral, law-abiding citizen in Washington who will make us all proud again to live in America. On November 6th, vote.
What a great
I'm Carl Reiner. I'm 96 and a...
Sorry, Carl. What a great political ad there from Carl Reiner. Just as true today as it was in 2018. All you have to do is vote. So vote. And it's sad that Carl didn't make it quite to the election. He did make it to 2020, but he almost made it to the election. This is a strange story that came out this morning. Officials couldn't reach Trump for hours after the white power video, according to a report in Business Insider. He was on the golf course golfing with Senator Lindsey Graham and had allegedly put his phone down or put his phone in his pocket or something like that. But this is a very strange idea. For hours, he wasn't contactable. What if there was a nuclear war or something? What if something happened and they needed to reach the president? He wouldn't be available for hours, especially with something as simple as this tweet. Minutes after this tweet, they probably started getting negative reaction that it says white power in the first 8 seconds. That would have been a great time to take it down. Leaving it up for hours, I don't know if you support white power or not. You left it up for hours. Sad news as Americans remain barred from European travel as the EU announces the gradual reopening of their borders. The other countries that are not allowed, the United States, Russia, and Brazil. Great bunch to be in. Obvious question, what if there was a war? You can't reach the president. And in honor of Groundhog Day, I put out Sonny and Cher this morning so we could wake up just like they did during the movie. Americans no longer welcome in Europe due to the Trump virus. USA, USA. And Bob Dylan says, fail, 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 fail. That's a little like we're locked in a prison now, huh? Can't get out anymore. Rest in peace, Carl Reiner, an absolute giant of 20th century comedy, part of Sid Caesar's Hall of Fame writer's room, created The Dick Van Dyke Show, directed The Jerk, and was an all-time great straight man with his best friend, Mel Brooks. They famously performed the 2,000-year-old man routine. It says here it was originally on the Colgate Comedy Hour, back when toothpaste used to sponsor shows, the Colgate Comedy Hour. Here's another comparison of a couple of stories here. South Dakota governor says, we will not be social distancing at the July 3rd celebration with Trump at Mount Rushmore. Thousands of people are expected for the event. Masks are optional. The coronavirus likes this. Yes, it's just that funny. Representative Adam Schiff spoke, saying, I find it inexplicable in light of these public allegations that the President of the United States hasn't come before the country and assured people that he'll get to the bottom of whether or not Russians are putting bounties on the heads of troops. and that he'll do everything in his power to protect U.S. troops. It's been 3 days. He hasn't even said that much yet. Hey, look at this. It's a Supreme Court decision that isn't fraught or terrifying. Let's check this out. It was an 8-1 decision, and it settled the case of Booking.com. Yes, you can trademark a .com. Booking.com is a generic name for hotel service, and you can trademark the term Booking.com. But you can't trademark booking. Booking is a generic term. Interesting stuff from the Supreme Court. Good to see a 8-1 decision. That's the way it should be. These 5-4 decisions, it was never intended to be that way. It's always supposed to solve the problem. And here's something that solves the problem. Masks. Yes, masks reduce airborne transmission of viruses. Infectious aerosol particles can be released during breathing and speaking by normal asymptomatic infected individuals. No masking maximizes exposure, whereas universal masking results in the least exposure. Yes, you see right here, the infected asymptomatic, that's a fancy word that means sick but not showing any symptoms, is spraying out tons of virus right here. This person is protected a little bit because she has a mask. This person gets maximum exposure. Meanwhile, if the sick person is wearing a mask, there's only minimal exposure to the person wearing a mask and minimal exposure to the person not wearing a mask. So it's better to wear a mask. It's just that simple. Please wear a mask. Kevin McCarthy says that the testing capacity is up and that's causing the positive rates. But Trump and McCarthy are lying. The U.S. coronavirus test positivity rate has been steadily trending upwards for 2 weeks. It just keeps getting worse. Dr. Bidikofer says that the United States is seen as a COVID-19 hotbed because we are one. And the fact that the EU isn't one proves that bringing a pandemic-ridden hellhole wasn't inevitable. It's the product of extreme incompetence from Trump and his GOP allies in the States. Here's a recap of yesterday's COVID-19 statements. WHO Director General, the worst is yet to come. CDC Principal Deputy Director, this is really just the beginning. White House Press Secretary, we're aware that there are embers that need to be put out. Yes, the gift that keeps on giving, the White House Press Secretary. She's just hilarious. Another fond farewell to Carl Reiner. He directed some of the greatest comedy films of all time, including The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and The Man with Two Brains. Goodbye to Carl Reiner. He made us laugh. Dr. Fauci says that he's concerned about what he's seeing in several states. They need to follow the guidelines that have been very carefully laid out in regard to reopening checkpoints. In some, they're going too quickly and skipping over some of the guidelines. Would have been great to say this a few weeks ago when Texas and Florida were opening, despite not having a 14-day decline in cases like they were supposed to in the president's guidelines. Rob Reiner writes, last night my dad passed away. As I write this, my heart is hurting. He was my guiding light. Stephen King, I'm so sorry to hear that Carl Reiner has passed on. He was a great entertainer and a fine man. Robert Reich says, we are the pitiful pariahs of the world. We're about to go into a second lockdown, and the U.S. economy will take even longer to recover. Why? Because Trump wouldn't and couldn't do it right the first time. Sarah Silverman, so sad to hear about Carl Reiner. Not only did he make my favorite TV shows and movies, see Where's Papa, but his humanity was beyond compare. His heart was so full of love. He never left his house empty-handed. Book, space pen, Swiss Army knife. Rest in peace to a man that embodies the word Mensch. Carl Reiner. The price of gold broke through $1,800 yesterday, a major spike for gold. Senator Conran says the excuse for Trump on Russia is that the president can't single-handedly remember everything that he's briefed on. At the same time, Trump campaign is running ads saying that Biden is losing it. As James Gleick read, still, he can remember that Putin wants to get back into the G7. He can remember that Putin wants our troops out of Germany. It's interesting, the selective memory loss of Trump. And Robert Reich warns, if you think Trump is on the ropes and will surely lose in November, think again. Our side has limits because we believe in democracy. Trump has no limits because he doesn't. And here he has 25 simple steps for an authoritarian to divert the election. It's not over yet. And we had a slightly later show today. I risked my life to run an errand this morning. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I went to the post office. I wore a mask. I shipped my package. There were like 3 people there without masks. Thanks, Nevada. There was one lady there with a Trump-branded mask. She seemed to be about 70 years old. And, of course, sadly, wasn't wearing the mask over her nose. So it really wasn't providing her with that much protection, or the rest of us, really. It's a tough thing to do, but you got to do it. You got to do some of your errands and things. Then we had more problems with the show. I think I had the webcam mic selected in Open Broadcaster instead of the board, so it wasn't playing any of the sound effects, and you can hear me coughing and sneezing and clearing my throat and everything, which really, I'm not that sick. I mean, I talk for like 2 hours straight here, and sometimes I don't get to take a glass of water or something. It's a little dry in here. It's dry in Las Vegas. I could run a humidifier in this room too, but I got a lot of books in here. Anyway, also there's something about when you have a cough button, like right here, you try to make all your noise during the cough button. So it's especially embarrassing that I had no cough button this morning. So there you go. Have some fun with that. But we redid the episode here, and hopefully it's just as good. I think there's just a couple more news stories and we can get out of here. Oh, check out the World Crypto Network today. We've got a brand new interview from TCC Conf, the Transylvania Crypto Conference from last year in 2019. I basically scheduled all these interviews to come out one a week until we don't have any more interviews. And as it turns out, I think this is a really good idea because there are no more Bitcoin conferences. There is no more content. It's pretty much impossible to go interview people, so it's neat that we still have some new stuff that you haven't seen. So check out today's new interview with Tone Vase, Peter Todd, and Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor, live from Transylvania. Yes, it's pretty crazy. I went to Romania. How weird is that? Check out SpaceX. They're targeting July 8th for a new launch, and they're counting down to a Falcon 9 launch today from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral. That was like 3 hours ago. Not sure if it's happened yet, but if you're interested in space launches and you want to just watch them, check out this Twitter account at SpaceFlightNow. It's a great way to track rocket launches. They're fun. You can watch them. Shout out to Donald Mack. He said I should make tea to help my voice and to check out the Beatles in 1994. It was a really neat Beatles reunion. I think it was from before the anthology album, or maybe it was like an advertisement or something that I didn't see. But it was new to me, and maybe it's new to you too. And I hope to check out the rest of that later. Got to add it to my watch later list. Sarah Cooper asks, is Trump like actively trying to murder his own base? It's a good question. And another great edit of the couple with the machine gun and the gun. Here they're transformed into singers getting ready to sing a song. And the question of the tweet is, what song are they going to sing? I saw somebody say Born in the USA. That's a pretty good answer. Breaking news, Dr. Fauci says that the United States is heading to 100,000 new cases a day unless big changes are made. And as we all know, the U.S. is not working on big changes, so this is likely to get a lot worse before it gets better. 3 hours ago, Caitlin Collins said, with just 40 minutes notice, the White House just announced there will be a press briefing today, so I hope to go check that out. This is likely a response to Vice President Joe Biden, who made a large speech today saying that Trump had failed us on the coronavirus response, saying that if he was president, he wouldn't have a piecemeal strategy, he would have a national strategy. He said that everyone should wear a mask, and even more telling, as he walked off the stage, he walked about 5 feet away from the stage, picked up his mask from out of his pocket, put his mask on, turned, and waved to the press. Yes, Vice President Biden is not hiding that he's wearing a mask, unlike Trump. He's setting a good example. Shout out to Jason Scott at Text Files. They just got a 250,000 book donation to the Internet Archive. How cool is that? As a lot of you know, the Internet Archive is scanning books. Yes, they're going to become the largest library in the world, and a lot of these books were never converted to digital before and would have been simply lost if not for their excellent work. So check out the Internet Archive. You can browse and borrow these books online anywhere in the world. Amazing stuff. A quote from Rand Paul at the Senate coronavirus hearing: "We shouldn't presume that a group of experts somehow knows what's best for everyone." And it's pretty funny because Rand Paul is, based on Ayn Rand, and yet he's denying experts. I don't know. It's just pretty funny stuff. And the Senate has stripped a provision from an intelligence bill requiring campaigns to report foreign election help. Yes, taking out the provision that would force you to report your Russian contributions while the country is accusing you of being bought by the Russians isn't a good look. Putin's GOP. The United States is posed to top 100,000 cases per day in the future. The United States is not in total control of the epidemic, says Dr. Fauci. What we thought to be unimaginable turns out to be the reality we are facing right now. And I don't think it's funny, but it kind of looks like he's doing the Home Alone scream right here with his Washington Nationals baseball branded mask on. Dr. Fauci made it funny. Several strip casino execs want to slow down reopenings, according to a high-level source. The numbers have them spooked. Scary stuff as the virus continues to spread in Las Vegas. And again, the results of the poll. We're in a simulation based on Groundhog Day. Every day is slightly different, but mostly the same. It's okay. You can tell me. I can take it. 81% of you agree that we are in a simulation similar to Groundhog Day. There's even a new movie coming out. I think it has Adam Sandberg from Saturday Night Live, and it's based on Groundhog Day. It's I don't know the whole plot yet, but it seems like it's him and a girl, and they're both in a Groundhog Day type situation. So I'm sure they fall in love and everything like that. But looks like a cool movie. I want to see it. I think it's going to be on Hulu end of July. So something to look forward to there. And we did it. We got to the end of the show. We survived, even though it's much later in the day. It's no longer Good Morning Bitcoin. It's more like Good Afternoon, but that's fine too. So thanks again to everyone for joining us. be sure to check out the worldcryptonetwork.store, where you can get your own World Crypto Network t-shirt. We now have sold at least one of all of these t-shirts. How cool is that? People can wear the things that we made, kind of. And we still need to sell some of these mugs. I imagine if I get my mugs in the mail, maybe you'll be inspired to get the mug. But check it out at worldcryptonetwork.store. Help support the show. Also, thanks to our friends on Patreon, patreon.wcn and patreon.com/madbitcoins. Thank you for your support. Check out the audio podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and other places where podcasts are served. It's almost up to date. And now that I've finished the show, I have a much better chance of getting it that way again. We're heading to the end of the show, but we want to give you a quick update on the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.66% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,155, a high of 9,216, and a low of 9,077. Volume was very low earlier and seems even lower now, with 1,849 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long, with 81% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 65%. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.